Well, hello again everybody, this is CM Kozeman with part 2 of answers to a very nice and eclectic list of questions, mostly about life, growth, science, childhood, adolescence, and our concerns for the future. Sent in by Noah Turner, a loyal follower of this channel. I am just going to answer these questions rapidly because Noah's questions are very insightful. And if you want me to answer your questions as well, please support me on patreon.com and also consider buying me a coffee and also maybe getting some CM Kozeman merchandise for the holiday season. You can always please your loved ones with t-shirts with my creatures on them, or tote bags, or a lot of different things. Just visit the links in the pinned comment and in the video description. If you are a Patreon.com supporter, not only do you get to ask questions, but you also get to see a great variety of my new artwork, paintings, projects, excerpts, plot reveals that nobody else gets to see anywhere. So yeah, without much ado, let's go with answers to Noah's question. First, let me take a sip of tea. Do you have any words that resonate with you and you find yourself writing or thinking about often? Maybe even putting them into your art? Well, I don't have many credos, if you will. I don't live or die by a certain word, you know? It used to be a thing that people would have certain mottos, and maybe sometimes in cringeworthy Latin too, and they would tattoo these on them, and it's only truth prevails, or silence is golden, or something like that. I mean, such mottos are nice, but they're not things that I think about with all my body and soul all my life. Usually though, I have a few other excerpts, things from stories or books that I read that kind of percolate in my mind with 6 to 3 month intervals. I don't know, they're always there. There's always a little back room with the interesting word that I'm thinking about. And I think one of them has to be these days, I don't know where I watched this. I think it was in a movie, or I may have read it in a book somewhere, but it's basically deep down inside, everyone wants the world to end. And I don't want to come across as a doomer by repeating this, but it's just as you kind of advance through life and, you know, tedium becomes a thing, or maybe in the future you're not very clear about everything having a positive outcome. I'm not saying this is in a nihilistic sense, but you really do wish that, oh goddamn, I wish I woke up and everything was different. And I think this in a way kind of resonates. I hope it resonates with you too, or maybe not. So one of them these days is deep down inside, everyone wants the world to end. And I think this is also another reason why people these days are so hopeful about a UFO revelation, or the end of the world, or some great big event that will change everything. Because if you look at it in a greater perspective, the world has a lot of economic, social, and just future-related cul-de-sacs, dead-end alleys in this day and age. And I am recording on the 22nd of December 2023, one day after the longest night. So there. What else is there? I don't know. Other cool things, I mean, some of them are really also positive too. So let's go with a positive one too. It comes from a book I really like to read. Every now and then I go back at it. It's a series of alternative history, sci-fi, adventure, military novels called the Draka series by S.M. Sterling. The title is D-R-A-K-A. A lot of things happen in these books, and I'm not just gonna spoil them all for you, but in one part of the books, it's the future, and there's a horrible, very nasty Cold War between, well, democratic world states, and then another half of the world that has adopted some sort of out of bounds, slavery based weird exploitation system. It's a blend of Carthage, Sparta, and the American South and the apartheid Africa all blended together and made even stronger and darker. Surprise, these are the bad guys. This book series, the Draka series, of course, is really haunting because most of the book is presented from the bad guy's perspective. So you get to see their ways of looking at the world, and the author is a great world builder. He gives us all these details about life, everything. So yeah, I'm stretching things out. But in one part of the book, okay, the Cold War and the space race get carried over to the moon, and both the Drakas and the Democratic People's Alliance, or whatever they call that, they have bases on the moon. And in the Drakas case, because they evolved from a slave-keeping society, they are less squeamish about genetic experiments. So in this moon base, they have all sorts of like fancy moon animals and like fancy moon biospheres and everything like that. Long story short, a nuclear war erupts, okay, and everything is destroyed. There are missiles flying all over the place, billions of people dying. It's horrible. Something happens during one particular scene in which a lead character is hiding in the tunnels under the moon, and suddenly they feel a tremor, and she asks, she's a commander, she asks, what happened, give me a damage report, and her subordinate says, oh, that's the moon dome gone. You know, so all those like fancy genetic animals, plants, whatever, just evaporated. And now it's still grimdark, but here's the bit that kind of keeps coming back to me like an adage and gives me hope. And this one is the bit where she says, oh, don't worry, it's just an artifact, she says. She just shrugs it off, the loss of something great and magnificent like that. It almost feels relieving, actually, maybe not to take care of this white elephant project, who knows. But yeah, so it's just an artifact. And these days, you know, I won't get into too many personal details, but I just helped out greatly with some monetary contributions to a family member, and it felt so good. It's just an artifact. What matters is the happiness of people around you. Yes, yes, yes. More questions. Do you put these phrases into your art? Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. I'm not much of a words-driven person, but if you look at things in a broader perspective, of course, there are probably parallels between the things in my art and, well, the things I like reading or writing about, so maybe. Do you keep all your art, says, oh my god, says Noah Turner. How do you store them efficiently? Fuck man, you really hit me at a place it hurts. I do keep all my art, and let me dig deeper into this discussion by talking about how many things I produce and the types of things I produce. So I have my digital art that stays in the computer, but I do get printouts which are A4 size. I have sketches almost every day, every waking day. Usually more than one page, and these I store in stacks in a corner of my living room. They're like printer paper sized, and then at the end of each year I bind them. Okay, so far so good. Then I'm a painter, you know, I'm a surrealist painter. I have small, mid-size and large works. So the small works I just store in like things that look like shoe containers, shoe boxes, or pizza boxes, you know, and I label them and shit. And then I have medium-sized works which I store in like art binders professionally. Some larger mid-sized works, they're like made out of wood, so I just store them in a crate in my living room. And then I have, or better to say used to have, large works. Now here begins a sob story, everybody. So if you listen to me this far, please type, I'm so sorry for your loss, Daddy Kozman, so I know you've been listening. Because actually, throughout most of my career, actually, I had nearly 1,000 extremely large paintings. And these were executed on art paper. Well, not even art paper, it's a kind of special paper called leather workers paper, which is just like heavy grade paper that's sold by the kilogram. It does not come in standard sizes, so for some reason it's very cheap. Like, I don't know, $30 gets you like 100 kilograms of this shit, and the roll is like almost 5'1" in American terms, or like over 150 centimeters tall, and as long as you want it to be, okay? So you can cut this and use it and make gigantic paintings. And I used to have a lot of paintings like this. I exhibited them all over the world and all over my home country until one fateful day. So these things are too big to store in my house, okay? So I used to roll them up in like big rolls basically. They look like enormous joint blunts, for the lack of a better word, and basically I just store them in a common place I held with my father. He's also a photographer, so this place was his photography studio, and his office. You know, he would go there, he would get dressed every morning, go there, hang around, have tea, log into the internet, visit only I'm sorry, like take care of some work stuff, and like, you know, just chill, have tea and stuff. That's my dad. Okay, and I would store all my art stuff there. In the year 2021, during autumn, in the height of the COVID pandemic lockdowns, something happened in this office. It was a quiet fire caused by electrical wiring, and the whole place burned down, including almost the entirety of my big paintings. Just gone. And like that Drakas character, I shrugged it off, saying, it's just an artifact. Fuck it. But it was kind of sad. I lost a lot of paintings I really loved. I had scans and digital photographs of all of them on hand, so they're not totally gone. In fact, if you go to the pinned comment, you will see a link showing a total catalog of everything I painted in my first 10 years. So all the paintings that burned down, at least digitally, are there. So that's good, but they're all gone. Fuck. But what can I say, you know? It's life. Ironically, none of this stuff was insured because, you know, insurance, taxes, shit, I don't want to deal with that. Ironically though, my father's photography equipment was insured and he got his insurance money back, so he didn't lose anything. There was even like a big cabinet where he stored all his like photo negatives, and miraculously that did not burn down. You know, they got a little like a tasty layer of artistic soot over them, but the negatives are okay. But like all my works burnt down. God damn. And I mean, it still peeves me a little to this day, even though yeah, it's an artifact, but like I haven't heard like I haven't even heard of a consolatory word from my dad, but I guess that's just classic dad moves. Anyways, I don't want to make these things too personal, and I'm luckier than not to have the family I have now. Okay, so yeah, that's how I stored my things until recently. I did rescue some paintings though. Like there was this haunting painting of like one weird woman. It was like half burnt, so I just cut the face out. It's still in my house somewhere. I could rescue, so these were in rolls, and like the most center layer of the rolls did not burn down, so I peeled all these ashy papers, and like a few paintings I could pull out. Some of them had like artistic fire damage on them too. But yeah, that's my big thing and big loss, and it should also be a lesson to you. These are all artifacts, you can always paint new ones. Honestly, I mean, we got off a kind of pessimistic start with these quotes and stuff, but there's actually a brilliant layer of optimism hidden in all of these things, and that is the feeling that, you know, losing things is of course sad, but the race is not over until it's over, and at that point it becomes academic, so you don't have to worry about it when it ends for you. So until everything ends, there's always hope, and if you got the fire in you, you can always create. And after this fire, and due to the COVID pandemic, I lost my studio, of course, so I had to move to basically the dining table, and I converted that into half a studio, and now I'm painting stuff on them. If I have to paint bigger things, I can spread some plastic tarps over the ground, like one of those fancy ass murder serials, Dexter and shit, and I just paint there. It's not the same, but still, you know, could be worse. And I have never had one day where I did not sketch or paint or create art. So yeah. Alright, number 12. What are some speculative, functional, cultural elements you love? Like the baths in your precursor's short story. Okay, so some explanations are necessary here. I love writing fiction, and I love speculating about fictional animals, people, settings, etc. And I notice that mostly when people design creatures or settings, they focus only on the creatures, and you have to like make this like a living room and kind of walk around in your fantasy a little. So like an easy example I can give you is many people have these insectoid alien races, you know, like a giant bug that speaks basically. Now, almost all arthropods, especially spiders, when they're growing, they shed their skin, and there's this phase in which they're very soft, you know, they can't be touched, and they're kind of like squishy and mushy and weird looking. And if you have a exoskeletal alien, maybe they do this too. So maybe when they're doing this, they become like super aggressive and super irritable, like PMS on steroids. So if you're writing about a setting like that, maybe these aliens have like, I don't know, maybe they're at a peace meeting with these aliens, some human people, and they bring them like shedding balm to appease them, you know. Oh, here's this balm, you can wipe it on your joints when you're shedding. Or in another story, you could have one of these insect aliens, and he or she is very irritable for some reason, and like a human character would be, I hate that bitch, why is she like that? And the others would be like, don't mind her, she's about to shed, you know. And the bug alien would be like, are you talking about me there? And it's that kind of... So with these things you could go to comedy and stuff. Also, if you want to develop this sense of understanding, you should really read memoirs, like genuine human memoirs, usually from parts of the world that are more interesting than the Western half. But even in the Western world, you can find a lot of little details. For example, apparently it was a thing in the 1950s for people to go to air-conditioned theaters during a heat wave, okay? So you're in like New Orleans or New York or some shit, and everybody goes to the cinema because that's the only building big enough to host these newfangled AC units. So everybody's cooling off. And then, I don't remember where I read this, it might have been in a cartoon, but so in this place people sit there for like hours on end, okay? So they kick off their shoes to like chill their feet basically in the heat wave. So there's like one anecdote of like a woman going there, kicking her shoes off, watching movies in the air-conditioned theater. Must have smelled delicious, by the way. And then she actually put on somebody else's shoes and accidentally came home. That's a great anecdote, huh? But that alone can tell you so much about technology, society, how people spent their lives. A completely offline world, which I view back with lots of envy these days too, to be honest. But you gotta look at little details like that, and when you make a creation, you have to kind of figure out the more humdrum and basic life details. Like if you're designing a spaceship, you should also design how these people maybe take a shit in there, or sleep in there, or prepare meals in there, or how they clean the stuff, like basic stuff, you know. Usually science fiction or fantasy people don't get this, because in its limited form, science fiction and fantasy are vehicles for getaways from the humdrum existence, but you have to feed the everyday existence, everyday details back into this shit, and that way you can be far more creative. I mean, let's have an exercise just like this. And so I'm recording as the rain is beating on the windows, okay? And I don't know, imagine a setting, I don't know, it's rainy and cold, and for some reason there are people or things that kind of lean into homes during rainy days. So you can see their like greasy hand marks in the rainy window, okay? These could be like intruders, ghosts, or like homeless creatures that want to get in. So you could have things like this. You could make a creepy short story, a scary short story, and call them like window markers or something like that. I mean, I just came up with this right here, but you see what I'm doing here. Take the everyday, process it logically, integrate it into the extraordinary, and you can be really creative. You don't need to be wild or like arcane or shit. So that's there, yeah. Limitations in life usually create opportunities for creative expression. Or as another way to put it, an adventure is somebody else having a bad time far away. So yeah, number 13, thoughts on ornithology, the study of birds. I mean, I can only respect that. I love birds. They're nice things. They're quirky animals. Like, they have a sense of weirdness that's really different from mammals. They seem stupid, but they actually aren't. I think they're a lot smarter. They just don't show. They're really quiet about it, you know? Ultimate introverts. And I really love parrots and cockatoos and stuff. The way they do these manic eye shifts and the pupil dilates, like the weird camera stuff, they're crazy. When it comes to ornithology, I really envy people who can like spot some brown piece of shit in a tree 50 meters away and they say, oh, that's a brown nutcomb hatcher or something. Like they can like eidetically process all these bird species, and that's like a whole other skill I have yet to master. The cool thing about birds is that aside from the charismatic ones, there are hundreds and thousands of species of like small drab brown birds that you need a really keen eye to tell apart. So yeah, ornithology is cool. Alright, number 14. You often speak of early childhood influences. Do you think you were influenced even in the womb? I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm not. I mean, I don't know. I belong to such an old generation that, believe it or not, my mother used to smoke in the first months of her pregnancy to me. It's not because she was a bad mother. It was just like a thing you didn't even consider, you know? Nobody knew about this shit, especially in our part of the world. So I don't know if nicotine influenced me a little, but I mean, she tells me she quit after a month into it. So I don't know. I don't remember anything from the womb, to be honest. I mean, and do I want to? I don't know. I think maybe, like, I'm a realist about this. You probably would remember music if your parents listened to a particular type of music incessantly. Also, from the womb, you just memorize the overall feeling of like being swaddled, being covered with something, and then just this hum, you know. I think it's the sound of your mother's heartbeat and your mother's like body activity. So it's like a constant white noise in the background, and I think that's ingrained into me somehow, because I always liked falling asleep next to the washing machine, the clothes washer, or the clothes dryer, just listening to the white hum of the machine and letting its heat wash over me. I like that stuff. Like, being next to a humming machine is still one of my cozy go-to activities, and let me know, maybe it is for you too. Other than that, nothing distinct. I mean, I don't think my mother or father had high art discussions, or they looked at weird animals to influence me in the womb, so to speak. The womb questions continue. Well, Noah, interesting questions, that's the most I'll say. Have you ever remembered your time in the womb? As I told you, unfortunately, no. My dad, he says, recently remembered his time in the womb and said it was very eye-opening. Now, at this junction, I need to ask, is this with some sort of hypnosis or something? I am on the fence about hypnosis. I think you need to like already be ready to let someone have complete control over you for that to work. I don't know, people have tried to hypnotize me before, but it never worked. I don't know, maybe I'm just too keen for them. I don't know. Or maybe it's just my thing that I probably would never give another person total agency over me. I sure like to take it, but never give an inch, you know? That's the kind of bent guy I am. But anyways, speaking back to hypnosis, no, but if you, Noah Turner, or any of the listeners of this podcast, remember anything from the womb, do let me know. Another close example I can maybe relate, I don't know if it's related directly, but you know, when you're sick, but like very sick, and you just like close your eyes and rub your hands into your eyeballs and you push them and you start seeing weird shapes and patterns. I think maybe that's how womb life must have felt like. I don't know. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Maybe there is somebody out there who can hypnotize me or give me some weird drug that will make me remember amazing revelations about my parents. Maybe how they planned to burn down my artwork when I was coming on to 38. I don't know. Secretly. That's a joke, by the way. But anyways, I don't know. No recollections aside from some very instinctive ones. Noah continues on the dreamy arc. Do you wake yourself up for your dream journal, or are all your dreams naturally occurring? Interesting. So I do keep a dream journal, and it's very illuminating. If you listen to my podcasts or previous live streams or other episodes where I basically talk my head off like this, you probably would have heard me talking about my dream journal. In fact, in some live streams we did this activity where I just opened it to a random page and asked people to name a date, and then with the date they gave me, I read the dream of that day, if it was safe to read, of course, because a lot of my dreams are I mean, they are very instinctive, let me just say that much. But a lot of my dreams are also quite innocent and bizarre too. I mean, and I am actually planning a big new episode about a field guide to dreams, because I have been reading a lot about the ancient Greek conceptions of dreams. I've been looking at my own dream journals and like basically cataloging the sorts of dreams I've been having. And there are dreams and there are dreams. I mean, some dreams are instinctive, you know, you spend a long day driving and then in your dream you're still at the wheel. Okay, that's just an instinct. Then there are dreams in which like you see things from your life that you know. So you see an old house you lived in, or like, I don't know, a friend, or like some weird thing at work, or like some simple mundane details like trying to get money from an ATM or something. Then there are dreams which are completely extraneous, like you see things which you haven't seen before. And this happens to me a lot with terrarium dreams. Like I'm in a weird reptile shop and there are these like geckos that are like blue, but like so blue they're the color of copper sulfate and shit. Like I don't know where these come from. There are also dreams in which I have music. Then there are the whole set of these weird music dreams. By the way, I'm taking a little break because I'm talking about dreams, but right now it's 32 minutes past 5 in the 22nd of December 2022 in Istanbul. There are these like bomb sirens going off all over the place. I'm gonna take a little break and then I'll be back with dreams. I just need to find out what the fuck this air raid sirens are. It's ominous, man. Ominous! Okay, hours passed. The world didn't end. It was indeed some sort of a fire alarm or a siren warning, but it was nothing serious. The world didn't end. I actually went and had some like corporate dinner to take care of, and now I'm back slightly tipsy. And yeah, the world goes on and we are still answering Noah Turner's questions. And yes, last time we left off, before the sirens and everything, we were speaking about dreams. Suffice it to say, there are many dreams and I will discuss most of them in an upcoming new video. God damn, I'm a bit tipsy. But anyways, the short answer to the question is all of my dreams are naturally occurring, but when I get to write them down, I always write them down after I wake up. So with the exception of certain really portentous and like amazing dreams, like stuff I cry in and stuff, you know, I wake up, I sit down and write. And in this process, yes, I do miss out on some dreams, I guess. But if the dreams are intense enough to warrant recording, I almost always remember them. And I think 2 to 5 times a month I'm lucky enough to like catch these dreams, like some weird fish caught flopping from the depths of the sea. Catch them, write them down and record them. And I have been doing this for almost 12 years now, so that's a nice long record. Anyways, I will speak more about dreams in the upcoming Bespoke Dreams video, so there. Anyways, another question from Noah Turner. You spoke of how your parents thought at one point you were autistic. Technically, he says, I am on the autistic spectrum, but the autism just kind of makes me smart and avoid eye contact. Do you think maybe you are on the autism spectrum, or do you have Asperger's? Now, my good friend, I don't know. In this day and age, people are prone to overdiagnosing these things. And if you avoid eye contact and if you're just smart, I mean, this is the way I was during elementary school or primary school. And I do remember my parents talking among themselves at one point, like, does he have autism or something? But they never really pursued this thing. My father kind of takes medical professionals with a grain of salt. He thinks that they mostly invent the troubles they're out to diagnose, especially when it comes to psychiatric or psychological diagnoses. In some ways, I find this correct. I mean, if there's a kid and he or she is just smart and just avoids eye contact, I would hesitate to treat that kid as if he or she has genuine autism. Like, genuine autism is, I think, when kids or people just sit around, they not only refuse to interact, they cannot interact with people. And I know this thing is on a kind of spectrum, but my condition for counting anything as a psychiatric or psychological disorder only starts when it affects these people's standards of living. So if you're otherwise okay, you get along with your life, but you just avoid eye contact sometimes, it's just the way you are. The problems would only begin, and maybe I would only seek consultation if a said person cannot maybe hold a job or perform socially in any condition, you know, if their life is impaired. Then would be the time when I will seek medical attention. And I had this thing when I was growing up. I did not look at people in the eye. I don't know why. I felt shy. I felt shy. If they looked back at me, I kind of felt threatened. And I always busied myself drawing and stuff as I spoke, so I could carry very, very fast and self-aware conversations. I just didn't like looking at people, you know? Not my thing. So if you got something like this, I don't think you got a true or like a serious autistic condition or even Asperger's disorder. I mean, I used to speak about this in previous podcasts. There's this thing called Asperger's disorder, which is like a cool, kind of cruel, and let's say a form of very light autism that's also devoid of empathy. So people with Asperger's can also be really cruel. They can manipulate people, but they're also very smart, and they got the sort of bad boy genius kind of vibe. But also these cases are like very understudied. Like, can we really characterize the condition of Asperger's in any way or form? I don't know. And in our day and age, I think mental disorders have become the new star signs, you know? Everybody says, I got OCD, yeah, I got ADHD, yeah. If you're a little serious, little selfish, they think you're OCD. If you're just lively and, I don't know, if you're just, bubbly, full of energy, they say you got ADHD. If you're a little quiet and smart, you got Asperger's. If you're quiet, smart, but also like a coder and shit, you are maybe autistic. I don't know. I mean, I always count these on as part of popular culture, and I believe if you can articulate these questions, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. Not that these disorders are wrong to have, they're not things to be ashamed of, but I don't think you would warrant a visit to the psychiatrists anytime soon. You're just a quirky, interesting, and slightly introverted kid, and it's just a human character. That's that. Bish, bash, bosh. Okay, another question from Noah. We're both nerds, he says. Can any suggestions on how to be a likable nerd who can get girls and not be weird? Who daddy? Oh boy, you just came to the right person. Look man, I'll be real with you, okay? Being a geek, quote unquote, or being interested in science or interesting things, reading a lot, being smarter, having a better memory, this is not something like a favorite genre of music. So you cannot really capitalize on this to make yourself more likable. I mean, of course, it's very nice and character building to have unique interests of your own, and by all means pursue them, speak about them with people. I mean, if you're into reptiles or science fiction or CM Cosman podcasts, talk to people. But when it comes to getting girls and, well, being attractive and being likable, you can't be a likable nerd the same way you cannot be a likable music fan or a likable jock, People like people as people. This is something very weird and counterintuitive. And what you have about your life, it's just like sauce dressing. So my suggestion to you, try to keep your arcane interests to yourself to a degree. Of course, talk to people about them when the opportunity presents itself. But you should not be that kid whose first line in a conversation is a weird interest that they have, or some geeky facts. Of course, if you're in the right setting, you are very more than welcome to fire ahead with those facts or your knowledge of arcane things. Like if your school takes you to a museum trip, by all means pitch in and try to talk to your friends or people you want to impress about what you've seen or what you know about the art. But this is very delicate, but try not to come across as a know-it-all, And I think this was where art gave me an edge, because I could be quiet, cool, reserved, and if someone was interested in me, they would come closer and look at the things I'm drawing at, and I'd be like, yeah, I just happened to be doing this, I guess. I could sense when a person's interest was on me. I could feel it like microwaves, on the nape of my neck, and I knew what to do with it. Look, knowledge, you're a guy, okay? These things work differently when you're a guy, and whether you're a girl. If you're a girl, you could be the quirky science girl, and some guys would naturally show an interest in you, and bish bash bosh, that's that. But if you're a nice girl, usually that's enough. If you're a guy, you got to use this knowledge. use your skills or use your arcane interests in ways that contribute and give to your friends and the people around you and people you love or you're interested in. So, for example, I don't know, I'll just make up like a story. If somebody you like, you got a girl you got a crush on, is feeling sick, you know, I mean, you don't need to like step in with your nerd knowledge, but say, hey, looks like you need some medicine. Just be sensitive to what they want, what they need, but also try not to be too in their face about it. Usually when a lady shows an interest in a guy, you will know, man, you will know. And if it's there, it's there. If it's not there, fuck all you can do about it. But if you sense it, if it's there, you will know it, like a Soviet or a Russian microwave attack on the Cuban embassy. You know, you will hear this buzzing noise in your ear and shit. And then when you sense that, you can bring your unique characters, unique interests, talents into play. And when you do that, it should always be in a way that contributes to that person. So let's say if you're interested in dinosaurs, don't start just talking about, oh, I know the Abelisaurs had small arms, but then, you know, they got 4 fingers. No. Instead, set up a date in a natural history museum, or set up a date in an art museum, or maybe go to a bookshop. You know, these sorts of things contribute an experience to the person you want to impress, and then hope for the best. Be a giving sort of guy, and believe me, there will be no end to what you can take. Well, I hope this helps. I don't know if you guys are listening this far and you want more dating tips from Daddy Kozman, just let me know. I mean, I'll go back to the way I was in high school, and basically I was like a not interact with people at all kind of person until I was in, well, the last year of high school. Then I was so weird that a girl really kind of like fancied me. But I remember, like, I mean, God forgive her sins, but even then she was apprehensive. I learned after a month that she was like lying about a fake ass boyfriend she was inventing so she could like duck out of the relationship in case I turned out to be too cringe or not dateable. Because in high school days, girls also have a thing about guys, dateability. You could be everything, but if you don't have the physical characteristics of a man, at least to a degree, or like a hot boy at least, you know, then they will consider you as a kid, they will consider you as a sexually immature person, and you will not even register. And there's not much you can do about this rather than wait and let nature take its course. But having a sense of humor goes a long way too, and being like an overall cultured person too. You could also be athletically achieved too. I mean, that's also another option. But look, be somebody who assures confidence. Be a reliable guy. If within your means, contribute things emotionally or physically to the relationships you are in with your friends. And that's that. Of course, in high school, there's also these weird situations where everybody flirts with everybody and it's like a weird, mixed, confusing mess of interactions. And, you know, good luck solving your way through that. I'll give you one more advice, and it really helped me in life, okay? You should not ever let rejection phase you at all. At all. I mean, one of the things I still do to this day, if I think I see a friend in the street, usually a lady friend, I say, hey, Jennifer, or like Jane, or whatever, you know? Shout out their name if they look like them. Like half the time, they turn out to be somebody else, and I'm like, oh, sorry about that, and I just keep walking. Don't fucking care. If they do turn out to be Jane or Jennifer, then you can say, hey, what you doing in this part of town? And then the conversation goes on. And this is to say that do not fear rejection. And there are people out there who are just scared that they would lose face even in those situations. Even if they misidentify a friend, they would feel they would lose face. Why? What you got to lose? Ask a girl out. If they reject you, fuck that. Okay, you didn't die. It's very counterintuitive. I know it hurts. It has hurt me, but you know, just let it bounce off you. Like those tank battle scenes in that Brad Pitt movie, Fury. Who cares? Sorry, I got a boyfriend. Who cares? Don't let that penetrate your heart. And then you say, okay, have a nice day. And then do not pursue, do not engage. Be a gentleman, huh? Of course, there are always caveats and like exceptions to rules and exceptions to exceptions. But you know, that's a complicated battle space. These are just the basics you're getting from me. So don't be, look, if you want to be a likable nerd, just be a likable human. And the question also goes to say, how can I not be weird? There's nothing wrong with not being weird. Sorry, there's nothing wrong with being weird. I would say forget about the nerd part. Be likable but weird. Like, die on the weird hill, you know? I mean, statistically, I know from experience that weird people get more action and more interest than basic people. So stay weird and be human, be honest, be likable. Forget about the nerd part, you know, like there's always these tropes about like nerds interacting with nerds, and like it doesn't work. Actually, you can be nerdy but find love with a completely non-nerdy person, or vice versa. People don't come in tribes like that. Anyways, I've said enough. When you were a kid, did your grades ever suffer from getting lost in thoughts in class? Well, no, because usually we got our grades from quizzes and exams, and I always did great at them. Except maths, I hated maths, so I would never get daydreamy. In fact, there was this one time where I was just drawing monsters and stuff, okay? And this was like a civic studies class, so it's just like, what does it mean to be a citizen? You know, duties and responsibilities in society, stuff like that. The teacher was a boring guy, but he was alright. He was just droning on and on and on. And then at one point, he turned to me, "Oh, our artistic friend, I bet he has been listening, right?" He believed I wasn't listening. And then he was like, "I bet you can tell us all about civic duties and stuff." And I just flipped my paper over, and without looking at his face, that was my fuck you to that teacher. Without looking at his face, without reading from any of my notes, I gave a perfect delivery of the lesson. Just the same way I am giving a perfect delivery of these podcasts, you know. I just had it in me from day one. I don't know, maybe God put it in me, but I would never say I would never stutter. If I knew what to say, it came to me naturally, and I delivered like the perfect summary of the lesson. And then I remember the teacher was like flabbergasted, and I was like, yeah. So that was cool. So I did get lost in thought. I did daydream a lot. I did like do a lot of extracurricular scribbling and doodling. Some teachers were really against this, I don't know, but part of my mind was always in the lesson. The hardest lessons for me were maths lessons, because I just can't just even with that shit. I mean, physics and maths, formulas, my mind doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. Anything else like history, I could listen to it in the background like a podcast and process it as I drew. It was nice. So there. One last question before we finish part 2 of these amazing batch of questions from Noah Turner from Pennsylvania. Were you liked by teachers? I think yes. I don't think I was never a menace, you know. I would never disrupt the class or bully others, pick fights. I mean, the only time I got sent to any disciplinary action was during the last year of high school, when I was just getting too cozy and comfortable. But yeah, that's something else. PDAs in class time, stuff like that, huh? God damn. But most teachers liked me. In fact, I hope he's doing alright. We had a English teacher, Mr. Corona. He gifted me a World Atlas of Literature, and it was like a really beautiful book. I still have it at home to this day. I hope Mr. Corona is doing okay. He was a Polish-American guy, really stand-up bloke. He taught me, like, he guided me to write and like practice my English more, because he thought I had a unique voice in English. And this is of course a rarity because I studied in Turkey, you know. So there was also another teacher, Mina Anderson. I hope she's alright too. She was like my part of my English instruction core during the first years of my elementary school, and I would overhear her talking about like, oh, this Memo kid is just unique, talking to other teachers in the teachers room. And you know, I was like, woohoo, Miss Anderson, what's going on in there? But I was like really happy that I could impress somebody who was older than me. And of course, I think like she was in her like mid-20s or something. Ooh, baba boo. Okay, high school, man, weird time. Just stay safe, everybody. Thanks to Noah for these amazing questions. Answering them, I felt transported to high school years myself, and I really enjoy dishing out dating advice to people at basically any level of life that's younger than mine, because in my current age, I don't know the advice either, but you know, I can speak at least slightly comfortably about the road I've been down through. Anyways, everybody, this was CM Kozeman. Thanks for listening. If you listened to me this far, please write in the comments, I want your dating advice, Daddy Kozeman, so we know who listened and together we can beat the goddamn algorithm. Also consider donating to me on Patreon or buy me a coffee again, and keep watching this channel. Have a nice day. Goodbye.